Welcome to my first program, Talking with Stars, and many stars we hope to talk to over the next several years. Our first gentleman, he's been famous for many years, and only, as Jack Benny says, at the age of 39. I mean, right now, most likely, 39 years old, but he's had 45 million records sold in his career, 38 of top 40 hits. How about that? And one of the youngest folks to ever host a national TV show. I'd like to welcome as the inaugural guest on our show here, Mr. Pat Boone. Welcome, Pat.
Hey, good to talk to you. This is one for the time capsule.
Yeah, and I guess you're 39, just like Jack Benny used to always say to folks, 39 years old, right and holding.
Yeah.
Well,
Good to talk to you.
Good to have you here. Well, let's just right off the bat talk about what's happening in your life now. I know that we'll talk about your past history and everything. A great many years of great music and television and movies. But right now, just to mention, you've got a movie that is out on DVD by the name of Mulligan, right? Could you tell us a little about that?
Yes, well, actually, I've got two movies.
Okay.
One is called The Mulligan, and that's the one that's making the most noise right now. But a former one that I helped fund, and both films are now on Amazon Prime, by the way. The Mulligan and a film called Miracle in the Valley.
Okay.
Mulligan is a beautiful film that recently had a screening in 1,000 theaters across the country to introduce it in a sort of a splash to the general public, and we're still trying to get the overall theatrical release so it'll be in neighborhood theaters near you. The other one's called, and that's The Mulligan, a golf film, and it's a good film. By the way, I just got by a movie board in Canada just nominated for a supporting actor award.
Oh, cool!
In the
Congratulations.
Mulligan film. So I play. You know, it called on a great deal of acting skill for me to play an older man. I even right now I'm trying to act like an older man, though I'm only 88.
Oh, I thought you were 39.
Yeah.
Well, that secret will stay between you and me.
And these are my own teeth too. Anyway,
there you go.
But anyway, I've done two films recently, and they're both good films. Miracle in the Valley is on Amazon Prime, and
Right.
And then The Mulligan, and that one is, I think, going to wind up being in theaters across the country, as it was for 2 nights just recently in a sort of a splash preview. It's a good film. It's a film about golf. You know, millions of people love golf.
Oh yeah.
And but there's almost no movies about golf. And this one, we introduced a preview screening at the Masters just the night before the Masters tournament began. Jim Nantz, the wonderful golf announcer, is in the film, and he hadn't seen the film, nor had I, in its finished version. And so we both were seeing the finished film the night before the Masters. And I was thrilled that Jim, when we opened it up for questions of those of us who were in the film, and Jim Nantz stood up toward the back and said he had not seen the film, though he's in it. And he said, I honestly didn't know for sure what this was all about, the movie, but now that I've seen it, I just want you to know it's made a very big impact on me personally.
Cool.
And that I'm going to be a different person for having seen this movie, and I'm just thankful to be in it. So it is a very moving, good film about golf, but there's a gospel theme in it about the mulligan, the do-over, the second chance. If you mess up the first time on a golf shot or a major part of your life, you can have a second chance from the one who can give you that second chance.
Indeed.
If you ask him. So there is definitely a gospel theme, but it works in very nicely into a film that's truly about golf and about human relationships and about success and failure and the need that we all do have occasionally in our lives for do-overs or second chances.
And the need of a good family movie, right?
Yeah, right. And that's what this is.
Something that you can take anybody to. And another thing you have going on is that you've got your 28th book coming out. Is that, or it is out already, correct?
haven't counted my number of books, but it could be that number. But I think it is my last book. In fact, it looks sort of like this.
Oh, there you
This,
go.
this is the cover of the book. And I designed this cover as well as I felt God told me to write this book, and I have written it. And as you see at the top, it says, "Not religious, life or death." And the covers, the four corners, I mean, look like they've been singed, as if you would pull this book out of a book burning and saved it from being burned. And then down at the bottom, a subtitle, "The Eternal Choice We All Must Make."
Indeed.
And this book is not for religious people. That's why it says "not religious" in this warning, because it's going to be in truck stops, it's going to be in small bookstores and airports all over America. In fact, it's going there now, and it's on Amazon.
That's cool.
But I don't want people to think that it's a, quote, religious book. There were ministers like Franklin Graham and Pat Robertson and Max Lucado and others who were willing to give me endorsements. I said, no, this is for people who will not pick up and buy a religious book, because the recent polls, Barna and all the other polls, Gallup, now report that less than half of American citizens go to any place of worship now who are not sure there is a God.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes pray, may not. They don't know if they're being heard. They don't know if there is a God, if there's a heaven or a hell, and if there is, where they're going to go. So that, in other words, over half of America are clueless about what we call religion, and they're not really interested in picking up a book about religion.
And you know, you wanted to become a teacher when you were young, be a teacher and a preacher, correct? And you're doing that right now, even though you've had so many things, music, movies, all this, and author and everything. Now you're teaching and preaching, and you've been most likely, again, from my seeing you from your career, you've been teaching and preaching all your life, basically, and now you're doing that with the book right there, trying to get many people help.
You are so right. You are right, though I've not been thought of that way. I've been thought of more as either a rock and roller, though I'm not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, though I had more rock and roll actual hits in the 50s. I had 41 chart records in the last half of the 50s. Elvis had 40. He was my opening act the first night we met in Cleveland, and he had only one record. It was on Sun Records, and it was a bluegrass song by Bill Monroe, "Blue Moon of Kentucky, Keep on Shining." And he lip-synced that record on a sock hop in Cleveland, October 22nd, 1955. I had 3 hit singles at that moment of rhythm and blues songs: "Two Hearts, Two Kisses," "Ain't That a Shame," and "At My Front Door," or "Crazy Little Mama Come Knocking at My Front Door, Door, Door." Anyway, I had the hits. Nobody knew who Elvis was. And so he sang or lip synced his record for the kids at the sock hop, and then left. And they didn't know who he was. They liked the way he looked, but they didn't care for what he sang or lip synced that night. And I got all the screams and had to sign all the autographs later. Then about 2 years later, when we met again, we were both renting homes in Bel Air, both making movies at 20th Century Fox in almost adjoining studios at 20th Century Fox. And we got to be good friends and visited back and forth with each other's rental homes. Me with my 4 kids, and him with his buddies playing pool and occasionally dating a starlet. And our lives were different at that point, but our background and upbringing were very similar: church-going, Bible-believing, family-loving people. That's who we were. We were just 2 Tennessee boys, him from Memphis, me from Nashville. And our friendship grew right up till his death. But he was spiritually hungry and starved because of his career. He felt he couldn't go to church anymore. And he was missing that in his whole life. The last 20 years of his life, he told me privately, "I wish I could go to church like you do." And I said, "You can, why not?" He said, "Because I would be the center of attention and kids would be asking for autographs. I'd distract from the preacher." I said, "Don't you think that happens to me? I was very hot at the time. I said, if I go to a church where I'm not a member already, that happens to me. But I just tell the kids, wait till after the service. I'm here to worship like you are. Let me worship along with you, and then I'll sign your bulletins after the service. Take them to school, and the kids will say, "You got where did you? Elvis was at your church, or Pat Boone was at your church? Can I come? Can we come?" And I said, "Let it be an evangelical outreach, Elvis." Well, he grinned. He said, "No, I can't do that." But then he said, "Do you know Earl Roberts?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "Well, I'd like to talk to him." And I said, "Well, let me give you a clue. Your name's Elvis Presley. If you call Earl Roberts University, say, 'This is Elvis Presley. I'd like to talk to Earl Roberts,' he'll be on in 30 seconds. No, he couldn't do it. Socially, he was shy, literally shy socially. On stage, no, but socially with people he didn't know, shy. So especially people he respected. That's why when we first met, he was tongue-tied. He said, "I couldn't talk to you." I said, "Why?" He said, "You were a star." I said, "I'd only been recording since March." "Yeah, but you had 3 records on the charts. I didn't know how to talk to you." So I called Earl Roberts. He flew out to Las Vegas, spent an afternoon with Elvis, and came back and told me about it. He said, "The boy is starved spiritually. He misses the ability to worship with others." And like he did when he was a boy growing up, he starved for that. The closest he can come is after 2 shows at the International Hilton, he'll keep the gospel quartet that was part of his show always, and then keep them till 3 or 4 in the morning singing gospel songs until they're all worn out. And he won't go to bed till 7 or 8 in the morning, because that's how hungry he was to get back to his roots spiritually. But he never did. And so I feel like that hastened his demise and his susceptibility, the sleeplessness, causing him to take all those pills, and it took his life when he was 42. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he and I are going to renew our relationship in heaven, because I know that's where I'm going, and I hope he's there already.
And many, well, several years down the line, where all of us will be there, and we are
Not
again.
all of it. By the way, that's what the book is about.
Yeah.
Because it depends on the choice we make.
Exactly.
That we're making in this life.
We all hope to be there. Well,
yeah.
And certainly Tupelo, Mississippi. Have you ever visited Tupelo by any chance?
I have not. No, okay. I'm sad to
well,
say.
You're welcome to come on by anytime.
Well, I thank you. I know I would love it. In fact, I have a brand new record coming out right now called Grits. And a song came to me in a dream, believe it or not. And Ray Stevens and the Gatlin brothers and others have helped me make a record of it just now called Grits. Grits, bestest food there is. Country caviar, Tennessee foie gras. Grits, grits, bestest food there is. Keep your fancy food, give me my grits.
There you go, very well done.
And it's a song about all the fancy stuff that people are served at cocktails, and a good old country guy says, "Forget that junk, give me my grits." and Ray Stevens, I mean, he introduces the song and sings it, as do the Gatlins and Laurie Morgan and Deborah, not O'Day, I think Deborah. Anyway, I've got her last name. She's a big country singer. And that record's going to be coming out, and I think it's going to be a hit. Here I am at 88.
And I mean, indeed, and my gosh, after all those years, and here coming up with a big hit like that, good luck with that on that. And let me ask you one more thing about.
You do eat grits in Tupelo, right?
Oh, yes. I grew up in Kansas City, and I learned all about grits here in Tupelo, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Say that, and now also you're related to Daniel Boone, correct?
Yes, my great, 5 great granddad, Daniel Boone. He was born in 1734, had 10 kids. I'm descended from James, his eldest, and I have all the genealogy, and I'm direct descendant of Daniel Boone. And I was always disappointed when Fess Parker, who had played Davy Crockett already on TV, then they named him to play Daniel Boone. I said, wait a minute. He's my granddaddy. Why don't you have me play Daniel Boone? But he's already had been selected, because people didn't know that I was a direct descendant of Daniel Boone. In fact, people today are still surprised. Richard Boone, the actor, Megan, Boone, the actress, two or three professional baseball players named Boone.
Yeah, Brett Boone and Aaron Boone, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but you're not in relation to Fess Parker either, are you?
No.
Okay, well, I never know. That would be a double
I
thing, you
might
know,
be a
Daniel
cousin
Boone and
to
Fess
Richard.
Parker.
I might be a cousin to Richard Boone, who was
Okay.
have governmental travel.
Sure, sure, and Heck Ramsey back in the old days too, back in the '70s.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and well, you know, and also I've heard that you've had a pretty good story about being in recently. You know, Queen Elizabeth passed away, and you were in performance in front of Queen Elizabeth many years ago, correct?
The most embarrassing moment of my life. I actually did two Royal Command performances. The first while I was in college, still at Columbia University, and having hit rock and roll records. And I was asked to come to the Palladium Theater and with the Queen and Princess Margaret, Princess Anne, Prince Philip, everybody, and other performers, of course, do my rock and roll songs. And I was introduced then to Queen Elizabeth, and I learned to, when she stood in front of me, to bow my head, Your Majesty. If she offers her hand, take it. Don't offer my hand to her, but if she offers her hand, take it. And then whatever she says, if she says something, respond. So I passed with flying colors. I was still in college. Now, 6 years later, I was back for another command performance, and I was feeling like a little naive, like old hat, you know, a little blasé. I've done this. I know what to do. All the other performers around me, Peter Sellers, Peter Finch, Claudia Cardinal, actresses, and they're all nervous about meeting the Queen. Well, I've done that. I know what to do. And suddenly she's standing in front of me again. She comes up to about here on me, and I said, Your Majesty. And I look up, and she raises her head to me. She says, We met before. I said, We did? I mean, you remember that? Can you imagine saying to the Queen of England, when she says we met before, answering, we did? When was that? That, Queenie? But and now there's a picture that I have that was on the front of the London Times of just seconds after that happened, because she was very gracious. She said, "Oh yes, a Royal Command performance." I said, "Well, of course I know." I said, "I just didn't think you would remember." "Oh yes, of course." Well, and she was so gracious, but I could tell she was kind of tickled that at what I had just said. So now the picture I have is of her going right next to Claudia Cardinal, the actress, and both of them laughing about something.
Huh.
And my head over there is with this startled look on my face, like, did I just say we did when she said we met before? And that did happen. So it was so embarrassing, but she laughed it off. So I guess I have to.
Well, yeah, indeed, that's, I mean, great story on that. And I guess, you know, I wish you luck. It's been a pleasure to have you on our first show, my first show to ever have anybody with a question and answer like this. And I think, as I mentioned, I remember reading about your biography that you wanted to be a teacher and a preacher. I think you've done a lot for folks. I think, sir, I mean, I've grown up knowing all about you, and from your career, again, starting off with rock and roll and all the other genres of music that you did, and to be honest, I think overall you have reached that level of being a teacher and a preacher, and you've helped many folks.
I believe you're right, and I do hope that this being my last book, I had two other books that were million sellers. I'm hoping this is going to join them, because it's the most important thing I've ever written. And it hopefully is going to help answer a lot of people's serious questions, because they're not religious. This is not a religious book. It's a fact book, and it's about how God really loves us all and wants us to come to heaven, but the choice is ours.
That's correct. I mean, and I think we are in times of dear need of something like this, Mr. Boone, and I think you have got, hopefully your book will help many. It's been, again, very much a pleasure to have you on our show.
Enjoyed it a lot. Let's do it again.
And we hope to see you in Tupelo one day.
I hope so too. We'll have grits. Okay,
yes, indeed. We'll have grits. We'll have grits, and we'll take you a big tour of the city and see Elvis's home also. I mean, his birthplace. All right. Well, thanks again, Mr. Boone.
Thank you.